The universe does not shout, it whispers. In the stillness of your own being, a gentle voice is always speaking, calling you into alignment with your truest self. It does not beg you to perform, nor does it demand you prove your worth to the world. Instead, it invites you into a sacred silence, an inner sanctuary, where the real work of transformation begins. And that work, my friend, is not loud. It does not boast. It does not clamor for applause. It is quiet, invisible, and yet immensely powerful. To build yourself quietly is to walk in harmony with the laws of consciousness. It is to know that what is built in the unseen must by law reveal itself in the seen. And so you go inward, not as a retreat from life, but as the true battlefield upon which your destiny is shaped. You step into your imagination with reverence. You see not what is, but what must be. And you persist, not with noise, but with faith. The first way the universe teaches you to build quietly is through disciplined imagination. You close your eyes and you enter the scene of your fulfilled desire, not as a wish, not as a hope, but as something already accomplished. You feel it real. You saturate your being with the joy of its completion. You walk in that inner reality until the outer must conform. This is not fantasy, this is creation. The quiet, potent act of claiming what is yours by divine right. And as you do, the outer world shifts, silently, obediently. Then you learn the power of restraint. Not every truth must be spoken. Not every vision must be shared. What the universe births within you is sacred, and sacred things are not tossed into the mouths of wolves. You guard your becoming. You protect your becoming. You build in silence because the noise of the world is not qualified to judge what the infinite has whispered into your soul. You do not explain. You do not defend. You simply become. And in your becoming, you practice unwavering consistency. Each day a quiet act. Each moment a silent agreement with your higher self. There is no spectacle in repetition. There is no applause in the daily rituals of inner mastery. But these small unseen movements become the foundation of your new world. The universe delights in this quiet consistency, for it knows that what is done in stillness and solitude and secrecy will one day echo in the world for all to see. The next way is detachment. You no longer chase, you no longer grasp, you no longer beg life to notice your efforts. You understand the paradox. When you release your obsession with outcome, it comes, not because you stopped caring, but because you stepped into knowing. The universe is not persuaded by desperation. It responds to confidence. And confidence is quiet. Confidence walks away knowing what it asks for is already on its way. You stop performing, you start trusting. And finally, you cultivate inner peace. The kind of peace that is not based on circumstances. It is not the peace that waits for the storm to end. It is the peace that stands calm while the storm rages. You stop reacting, you stop justifying. You go within and you find the kingdom that has no need to prove itself to the world. This peace becomes your power, and from that power you create, you rise, you manifest. The universe is not in a rush. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is subtle, soft, and yet unstoppable. To align with it, you must become like it. You must build quietly in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your faith. And when you do, what you build in silence will one day speak so loudly the world will be forced to listen. Imagination is not a fleeting daydream or idle pastime. It is the true workshop of creation. It is the place where the invisible becomes tangible, where the unseen is carved into form, and where every future event is first drafted in the blueprint of consciousness. When the universe whispers to you to build yourself quietly, it is inviting you to sit in the sanctuary of your own mind and engage in the sacred act of imagining, not with hope, not with longing, but with conviction. The power to construct a new reality does not lie in the hands of others, nor does it rest in circumstances. It resides in the stillness of your own inner world. To imagine is to hold the substance of things not yet seen and treat them as real. Now, when you close your eyes and feel the texture of your fulfilled desire, you are not pretending, you are creating. You are stepping beyond the logic of your senses and entering into the realm of causation. Every external change you long for is merely the echo of a change that must first take place within. If your current world feels heavy, stagnant, or limited, it is not because the universe has abandoned you. It is because the image you are holding inside, the one you entertain most often, is projecting itself outward with perfect accuracy. You cannot build a new world while clinging to old thoughts. You must abandon the former image of yourself. You must die to it, and in your imagination resurrect the version of you that aligns with your highest desire. This is not an act to be performed once. It is a practice, a daily returning to the state of the wish fulfilled, a steady discipline of closing your eyes and stepping into the scene that would be true if your desire were already fact. The key is to make it real, not just to see it, but to feel it. The scene must possess the vividness and richness of reality. You must hear the words someone would say to you. You must feel the joy in your heart as if the thing were already yours. You must walk through that imagined world as though it were more real than the one your senses present. Because in truth, it is. The outer world is only a shadow, a reflection, an after effect. The inner world is the cause. The moment you accept this truth, you realize that nothing is truly outside of your reach, not because you are powerful by worldly standards, but because the universe responds not to effort or force, but to assumption. It responds to the inner acceptance of a thing as already accomplished. This is why imagination used with feeling and persistence is the master key. It allows you to dwell in the end while the outer circumstances catch up, and they will, they must, for the law is fixed. What you feel is true within must become true without. The timeline may vary, the path may surprise you, but the result is inevitable. The world may urge you to hustle, to strive, to prove, but the universe knows a better way. It knows that creation is not noisy, it is not chaotic, it is quiet, deliberate, intentional. When you imagine from the end, you are not seeking your desire, you are embodying it. You are no longer separate from it. You become it. You speak as if it is done. You walk as if it is done. You breathe as if it is done. And in that state, you shift the course of events. The bridges of incidents begin to align. People move, opportunities unfold. Not because you forced them, but because you changed your conception of yourself. And this is the secret. You are not trying to change the world. You are changing your relationship to it. You are changing your self-concept. You are becoming the one who already has what they once desired. And from this new state of being, everything begins to rearrange itself. You don't need to beg, plead, or push. You only need to persist in your inner world. Hold the image. Return to it each day. Make it your home. The noise of the world may tempt you to abandon your inner sanctuary. Doubt may whisper that nothing is happening. But in those moments, remember, all things grow in silence before they bloom in the open. You are not building a fantasy. You are constructing a future. You are laying each brick with your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. And the more faithfully you dwell in the end, the sooner the structure will rise around you in the world of form. This is not magic. It is law. To use your imagination in this way requires trust. It requires a quiet confidence that what you have conceived within must come to pass. It is not your job to control the how or the when. It is only your role to persist in the state of the wish fulfilled, to make it so vivid in your inner world that the outer has no choice but to yield to it. You don't speak about your desire as if it's far away. You speak from it, you act from it, you imagine from it, and you do this not loudly, not publicly, but silently, faithfully, in the privacy of your own consciousness. The most powerful creations do not begin with action, they begin with awareness. The awareness that everything begins within, that your imagination is not mere fantasy, but the womb of reality. When you learn to dwell in your inner world as though it were more real than the outer, you begin to understand the secret language of the universe. It is not a language of noise, of striving, or of public declaration. It is a language of inner knowing, of quiet assumption, of silent, unshakable belief. And so you build, brick by brick, image by image, moment by moment. And all the while the world will see nothing. They will not hear the sound of hammers or witness the scaffolding of your inner construction, But one day they will see the edifice, they will see the result, and they will wonder how it appeared. But you will know. You will know that long before it came into view, it was fully formed within. You created it not with noise, but with the quiet force of imagination. There is a sacredness in silence that the world has forgotten. In its rush to be seen, heard, and validated, it has abandoned the gentle power of quiet creation. Yet the universe still honors those who build in silence, who do not parade their vision, who do not seek confirmation from others before believing in themselves. When the seed is planted in the soil, there is no applause. No one cheers for the root that pierces the darkness, or the tender sprout that quietly pushes upward, but it grows. It rises. Not because it announced itself, but because it honored the laws of becoming. In the same way, your dreams, your visions, your inner convictions require silence to root themselves deeply into the soil of reality. When you receive an idea, a desire, or a revelation, it comes to you clothed in vulnerability. Like a newborn, it must be protected, nurtured, and held close, not exposed to the elements of doubt and cynicism, not thrown into the harsh glare of public scrutiny, but carried quietly in your soul until it gains strength. To share too soon is to invite resistance before you are ready to withstand it. Every vision is sacred, and sacred things are not handed out to those who will not understand them. The universe speaks in symbols and stillness. It does not scream its intentions. It whispers them to the one who will listen in the dark. You must become that listener. You must understand that there is power in not explaining. There is authority in not seeking permission. You do not owe anyone a blueprint of your unfolding. What you are becoming is not up for debate. The moment you feel the need to defend your dream is the moment you give others the power to define it. You silence your own magic by allowing it to be judged by those who cannot see what you see, not because they are enemies, but because they are not the carriers of your vision. It was not shown to them, it was shown to you, and for that reason alone, it belongs in your care. The world will always ask, what are you doing? Why are you different? Where is your progress? It will demand proof before belief, but the universe works in reverse. It demands belief before proof. And belief is often marked by those who cannot feel what you feel. If you allow the external noise to shape your internal conviction, your foundation will shake. But if you keep your dream private, if you shield it from premature exposure, it will have the space it needs to develop in strength and clarity. In silence, it will find its form. And so you move differently. You speak less. You act from knowing. You do not share your vision with everyone because not everyone has earned the right to witness your becoming. Some will diminish what you are building because they cannot conceive of it. Others will envy it. Some will try to mold it into their image, distorting the purity of what was given to you. But in silence there is protection. In silence your path remains undisturbed. What is kept sacred cannot be defiled. And the energy you save by not explaining is redirected into creation itself. This does not mean isolation, it means discretion. You walk among others, but you know who you are becoming. You participate in the world, but you are no longer shaped by it. You withdraw from the need to be seen so you can focus on being real. You stop reacting to expectations and start responding to the divine impulse within you. And in that space of inner alignment, the transformation begins. Quietly, gently, powerfully. The most profound changes in your life will not be announced with fanfare. They will begin in whispers, in moments of solitude, in choices made without anyone watching. You will feel the shift before it becomes visible, and in those early stages, you must protect it, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You are not hiding your growth, you are respecting it. You are letting it take form without interference. There is a wisdom in this kind of silence that the world does not understand. And that is why the universe honors it. When you build in silence, you remove ego from the equation. You stop trying to impress others with progress and instead focus on alignment. You stop measuring your worth by what others see and begin to recognize it by what you feel within. You realize that silence is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be revealed. It is potential waiting to be realized, and when the time is right, what has been formed in darkness will emerge in light, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. There is a temptation to share your journey, to gain encouragement, to feel supported, to make your dream real by talking about it. But words alone do not give it power. Faith does. Imagination does. Persistence does. And all of these thrive best in silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of authority. The silence that says, I know who I am and I don't need to prove it. That kind of silence is magnetic. It draws the right people, the right circumstances, and the right opportunities, not through noise, but through alignment. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you strengthen your connection to the divine. You say, without words, I trust. You trust the timing, you trust the process, you trust yourself. You trust that what was given to you will come into being, not because others approved of it, but because you honored it. And in that honoring, you became the vessel through which it could manifest. So you build quietly, you imagine quietly, you correct your inner conversations quietly, you walk in the reality of your desire even if no one sees it yet, you feel it, live it, and breathe it in the hidden chambers of your heart. And that is enough. That is more than enough. Because what is rooted in silence cannot be uprooted by noise. What is born in the inner world will always find its way into the outer one, if you are faithful enough to protect it with your silence. There is a quiet force that builds empires, transforms identities, and rewrites destinies. It does not arrive in dramatic bursts, nor does it need grand declarations. It is slow, subtle, and consistent. In a world addicted to speed and spectacle, this force is often overlooked. But the universe knows its value. It is the quiet act of showing up again and again, even when nothing around you seems to change. This is the silent builder, the daily repetition, the invisible foundation upon which all real transformation stands. Most people underestimate consistency because it rarely provides instant gratification. The ego craves rapid progress, visible results, and loud affirmation. But the spirit moves differently. The spirit honors process. It knows that the most powerful structures rise from deep, stable roots. A single drop of water means little, but drop after drop, unseen, uncelebrated, can hollow stone. In the same way, each moment you return to your vision, each time you affirm the truth of your desire, each day you persist in imagining the life you want as though it already is, you are building. Quietly, faithfully, eternally. There is nothing glamorous about consistency. It does not entertain, it does not boast. It is humble, even mundane. And yet it is through this very simplicity that miracles are born. Every time you imagine yourself already living in the reality you desire, you impress that image more deeply onto the canvas of your mind. And with each impression, the outer world bends. It adjusts. It reflects what has been so deeply impressed within. But this reflection does not always come at once. That is why those who lack faith quit. They mistake delay for denial. They abandon the practice just before the breakthrough. They seek signs instead of staying faithful to the inner knowing that the sign is already within. To be consistent is to say, I do not need to see it yet to believe it. It is to walk in the unseen day after day without applause, without recognition, without external validation. You imagine the scene of your desire fulfilled not once, not twice, but until it becomes your dwelling place. You live from that inner reality even as the world offers no evidence. This is not delusion, it is devotion. It is the quiet confidence that what you feel real must one day appear. The delay is not rejection, it is construction. It is the time required for the invisible to gather form. When you practice consistency in silence, you become unshakable. Because your strength no longer comes from outside affirmation. It comes from within. You stop chasing the outer world and begin to create it. You stop reacting to what is and begin responding to what must be. You become a vessel through which the universe can move, steady, open, reliable. The universe does not work with the frantic, it works with the faithful. It seeks those who will not abandon the vision when storms come. And storms will come. Doubt will knock. Silence will seem endless. But if you remain, if you hold the image, if you return to the practice even when it feels pointless, you become the exception, the one who didn't give up. There is a special kind of magic in repetition, not the mindless kind, but the conscious kind, the repetition that is rooted in belief, in imagination, in deliberate attention. Each time you practice imagining your desired reality, you are chiseling away the old self, the self that doubted, the self that feared, the self that waited for permission. And in its place you are revealing the self that already is, the one who holds the new identity with certainty. You don't need to shout about this transformation. You don't need to prove it to anyone. You just need to show up again and again, quietly, purposefully. People often ask, why hasn't it happened yet? And the answer lies in the question itself. That doubt, that impatience, that subtle disbelief disrupts the process. The seed cannot grow if the soil is dug up every day to check its progress. But when you are consistent, when you tend to your inner world as though it were already done, the universe moves. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. That alignment, repeated over time, is unstoppable. And there is another gift in consistency. It refines you. It teaches discipline, patience, and trust. These are not minor qualities. They are the very tools you will need to sustain what you manifest. The process of consistent inner work is not just about getting what you want. It is about becoming the version of you who can hold it. Without this inner transformation, even the most miraculous manifestation will slip through your fingers. But if you build slowly, silently, and consistently, what you create will be built to last. There is no secret technique, no shortcut, no miracle hack. The real miracle is found in the daily choice to return to your vision, to return to your assumption, to return to your inner scene, where all is already done. This return is your offering, your agreement with the universe. It says, I trust the unseen, I trust the law, I trust myself. And that trust, repeated, becomes reality. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to feel inspired every day. What matters is that you do not stop, that you do not allow temporary emotions to steer you off course, that you do not let the silence fool you into thinking nothing is happening. In truth, the silence is where everything is happening. It is in the silence that your repetition gathers force, that your belief deepens, that your identity shifts, and it is from that shift that the world must follow. This path is not glamorous, it is not quick, but it is certain. If you stay with it, if you continue to imagine, to feel, to affirm, even when your senses give you no encouragement, you will see the harvest. Not because you are lucky, but because you are loyal to your vision, to your truth, to your daily quiet practice. And when it arrives, when the form of your desire finally appears, it will not surprise you. You will not feel like a stranger to it, because you've already lived it 1,000 times in your mind. You've rehearsed the joy, the peace, the success. You've dwelled in it so often that it feels natural. This is the gift of consistency. It does not create in noise, it creates in silence. And yet it speaks the loudest when the time comes. While others wonder how it happened, you will know. You will remember every silent night you held the image, every moment you closed your eyes and believed, every time you returned to your inner world when the outer world gave you nothing, and you will understand that nothing was in vain. Every repetition mattered, every moment counted, every quiet act built the foundation that made your new reality possible. There is a moment in the process of inner transformation when the mind wants to interfere. It wants to know how, it wants to control, it wants to see signs, results, validation. And yet in that moment, the voice of the universe remains still. It does not argue, nor does it defend its timing. Instead, it waits. It waits for you to release your grip on the outcome, to soften your demand for proof, to surrender the need to force what is already promised. The great paradox is this: the more tightly you chase what you desire, the more it eludes you. But when you release it, when you let go, when you trust, it finds its way to you, gently and without resistance. This is the beauty of detachment. It is not about giving up. It is not about no longer wanting your desire. It is about knowing so deeply that it is already yours. You no longer need to obsess over when or how. You do not let go of the vision. You let go of the tension, the anxiety, the impatience. You remain inwardly convinced, but outwardly calm. And in that calm, something incredible begins to happen. Life begins to shift. The very thing you once chased begins to draw itself toward you. Not because you forced it, but because you made space for it. There is a kind of quiet confidence that is far more powerful than striving. It does not speak often. It does not explain itself. It simply knows. And because it knows, it does not panic when the world remains silent. It does not tremble when the door does not open immediately. It does not rush. Because it understands that what is truly aligned does not require begging. It flows. It arrives on time, even if that time is not yours. Detachment is the spiritual art of removing the weight of desperation and replacing it with the ease of faith. To detach is to understand that the universe is already in motion, that the moment you imagined your desire, the moment you felt it real within, you initiated a movement in the unseen. And every time you return to that state of the wish fulfilled, you amplify that movement. But when you begin to doubt, to question, to check for signs as if they're evidence in a courtroom, you interrupt the current. You step out of alignment. You begin to act not from knowing, but from fear. And fear repels. Fear delays. Fear resists what is trying to flow naturally into your life. You cannot manifest what you are holding hostage. If you grip your desire so tightly that your entire emotional state depends on it arriving today, you are not living from the end, you are living in lack. And lack perpetuates itself. It creates more waiting, more struggle, more distance between where you are and where you long to be. But the moment you release the need to control, the moment you return to your inner peace, you enter the vibration of fulfillment. And fulfillment, like a magnet, draws its match from the unseen into form. There is a subtle power in no longer needing what you desire, not because you don't care, but because you have already received it in consciousness. You have already touched it in imagination. You have already lived it in feeling. You walk differently when you know it's yours. You speak with a calm certainty. You stop seeking reassurance. You begin to enjoy the present again, not as a waiting room, but as a sacred space where the harvest quietly ripens. You know that nothing is missing. You know that what is yours cannot pass you. You know that all is unfolding even in silence. This knowing frees you. It liberates your spirit from the prison of waiting. You stop checking the clock. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop trying to manipulate the process. You begin to rest, not in passivity, but in alignment. You continue to imagine, you continue to feel, but you stop pushing, you stop needing, you stop telling stories of not yet, and you start living stories of already. You shift your entire being from asking to receiving, from chasing to attracting, from doubt to embodiment. The detachment is not cold or careless, it is deeply loving. It says, I trust the divine timing of what I have already claimed within. It says, I no longer measure the process by appearances. It says, I know that unseen hands are at work, orchestrating every detail with precision. And because you trust, you smile more, you breathe deeper, you become lighter. And in this lightness, your energy aligns perfectly with the life you want to live. The world may not understand this. It will tell you that you must hustle, grind, suffer. It will say that if you are not struggling, you must not be trying hard enough. But the universe responds not to struggle, but to alignment. It does not need your panic. It needs your presence. It needs your steady knowing. That is what opens the door. That is what allows the unseen to become seen. Not effort, not stress, not anxiety, but calm certainty, silent assurance. The deep, unshakable feeling that it is done. This is the power of letting go, of walking in faith while holding the vision, of trusting the promise without demanding proof, of building yourself in silence while knowing the world will one day echo your inner conviction. And it will, not because you fought for it, but because you believed so fully, so deeply, so consistently, that the universe had no choice but to yield. You stopped begging and started becoming. You stopped waiting and started embodying. And in that transformation, you allowed what was always yours to find its way home. There is a place within you, untouched by noise, untouched by judgment, untouched by fear. It is the calm beneath the surface, the stillness behind your breath, the silence behind every thought. This place is not built with effort nor found through force. It is discovered when you withdraw from the chaos of reaction, from the push and pull of circumstances, from the endless chatter of the outer world, and turn inward. Here, in this sacred interior, you meet your true power, not in the form of control, not in the form of dominance, but as peace. Deep, radiant, unshakable peace. This peace is not an escape. It is not an act of avoidance. It is the foundation of all conscious creation. Without it, your thoughts scatter, your feelings waver, and your imagination becomes foggy. But with it, your entire inner world becomes coherent, focused, and potent. The universe speaks through peace. It does not shout over your anxiety. It does not contend with your fear. It waits for your stillness, and in that stillness it moves. When your inner waters are calm, they reflect the image of your desired life perfectly, and the world, which only mirrors what you are, responds with equal harmony. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. They are disturbed by every sound, every delay, every word spoken against them, every moment that doesn't go as planned. And in doing so, they surrender their creative power to external forces. They believe that peace comes from perfect conditions, that it is something to be earned after success arrives, after problems are solved, after people treat them right. But peace is not the reward. It is the source. It is the starting point. It is the atmosphere in which all great things are born. When you learn to cultivate inner peace, regardless of outer conditions, you become immovable. Not because you are emotionless, but because you are rooted. The wind may blow, the storm may rage, but you remain centered, not passive but poised. You are no longer the puppet of external events. You are no longer thrown about by what others say, by what doesn't work out, by what hasn't yet appeared. You have chosen a different seat, from observer to creator, from reactor to imaginer, from chaser to attractor. You create not from urgency, but from serenity. And in that serenity, your imagination flourishes. You see more clearly, you feel more vividly, you believe more easily. The noise of doubt, of fear, of worry is silenced, and in its place grows the sound of quiet confidence. It is in this quiet confidence that miracles unfold, not because you demanded them, but because you became the version of yourself who lives in harmony with them. Peace aligns you with your desires faster than any forceful action could ever achieve, because peace is the signal of trust. It tells the universe, I know, it is done. You do not need to announce this peace to the world. You do not need to prove your calmness. True peace is invisible. It is not loud. It does not try to impress, but it is deeply felt by you and by everything around you. People begin to notice something different. They can't explain it, but they feel it. Your presence changes. You walk into a room and carry a calm that influences others. You become magnetic, not because you tried to be, but because peace is magnetic. It draws, it attracts, it calls forth that which matches its frequency. You will notice that the more peace you cultivate within, the less you seek validation, the less you argue, the less you chase. You stop looking for signs because you become the sign. You stop asking when because you know that it's already in motion. You stop explaining yourself because your spirit has already agreed with the outcome. And this agreement is not noisy. It is silent, but it is powerful. It is what builds worlds. Peace does not mean inactivity. It means inspired action. Action that flows from alignment, not from panic. Action that feels guided, not forced. You begin to move when it feels right, not because you're afraid of missing out. You speak when you're led to, not to fill the silence. You wait when needed, not in laziness but in wisdom. And this new rhythm, this flow, becomes your life. You are no longer racing. You are no longer proving. You are no longer battling the moment. You are creating within it. And the more you live from this inner peace, the more you start to see how much time you used to waste reacting. How many opportunities were clouded by fear. How many dreams were delayed by inner chaos. But there is no need to grieve that time. You were learning. You were discovering what didn't work so you could finally return to what always has. The stillness within you. The center. The quiet truth that you've always had the power. Not because you shouted loud enough, but because you believe deeply enough. In the quiet you build, in the peace you grow, and from this state the life you imagine begins to meet you, not as a distant hope, but as a natural extension of who you have become. It starts with a moment of silence, a deep breath, a decision not to react, a choice to return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And in that space the world around you shifts. Not immediately, not with fireworks, but certainly, surely, and silently. Because peace is not passive. It is the power that moves mountains without lifting a stone. It is the language of the universe. And once you speak it fluently, you will never need to raise your voice again.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract wealth effortlessly while others struggle, no matter how hard they work? Have you ever looked at someone who has risen from nothing to unimaginable success and asked yourself, what do they know that I don't? Could it be that there is an invisible force shaping their reality, a divine law that governs the flow of wealth and abundance? If money was simply the result of labor, then why do some toil endlessly without ever seeing prosperity? Why do others, with seemingly little effort, have doors flung open before them, walking into wealth as if it were their birthright? Perhaps you have prayed for financial breakthrough, fasted for a change, yet your hands remain empty. Perhaps you have whispered words of hope in the darkness, yet when the morning comes, your circumstances seem unchanged. You begin to wonder, has God forgotten me? Has the universe turned its back on me? But what if I told you that wealth is not something you chase, but something you become? What if I told you that the abundance you seek is not locked in the hands of fate, nor in the hands of others, but in your own mind? My friend, the secret to riches is not in the struggle, not in the sweat of your brow alone, but in the assumption of wealth before it manifests. It is in the quiet but unshakable belief that you already possess that which your heart desires. Scripture says, a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. This is not merely poetic wisdom, it is the blueprint of reality. Your external world is the outpicturing of your internal state. If you see yourself as poor, if you feel lack deep within your spirit, the world will simply reflect that assumption back to you. But if in the secret chambers of your mind you walk as one who is already rich, if you assume the feeling of abundance even before a single dollar is in your hands, then the world has no choice but to conform. This is where many fail. They pray for wealth while feeling impoverished. They visualize success while drowning in doubt. Their words speak of abundance, but their hearts whisper disbelief. And so their reality remains unchanged, for the law of assumption does not respond to words alone. It responds to the state you embody. You think of the farmer who sows a seed. He does not dig it up each morning to see if it has begun to grow. He does not weep in despair, wondering if the harvest will come. No, he sows in faith, knowing that the laws of nature are in motion, that the unseen process is already unfolding. He assumes the harvest before it appears. And so it is with wealth. The moment you assume it as yours, the unseen forces of the universe begin arranging circumstances, bringing opportunities, shifting the world around you to match the reality you have claimed. Ask yourself, what if, from this moment forward, you refuse to see yourself as poor? What if, instead of wishing for wealth, you assumed you already had it? How would you carry yourself? How would you think? How would you speak? Would desperation leave your voice? Would anxiety fade from your heart? Would your decisions reflect confidence instead of fear? If you can embody this state fully without contradiction, then money must come. It is not a matter of if but when. The law of assumption is divine. It is unbreakable, unchangeable, and available to all who dare to believe. And so, my friend, if you are ready to step into your wealth, if you are ready to align with the abundance that has always been within reach, then listen carefully. I am about to share with you the 10 principles of attracting money effortlessly using the law of assumption. These are not mere theories. These are the laws by which the wealthy live, the principles that separate those who struggle from those who rise. Pay attention, because what you hear next has the power to change your financial destiny forever. If you desire wealth, you must first recognize a profound truth: it is already yours. This may seem impossible to accept when your bank account is empty, when bills are piling up, and when the world tells you that you are lacking. But understand this: your current reality is only the reflection of past assumptions. It has no power over your future unless you continue to believe in it. Consider the parable of the prodigal son. He wandered in lack, believing himself to be lost, separated from his inheritance. But when he returned not to a place, but to an awareness, he was received with abundance. This is not just a moral lesson. It is a revelation of how reality operates. The moment you accept that you are already wealthy, the moment you cease to beg, to wish, to plead, and instead assume, you activate the law that governs all creation. If you think of a wealthy person, how does he think? How does he walk? How does he move through life? He is not anxious about his next meal. He does not fear an empty wallet. His posture, his speech, his very presence carries an unshakable confidence. He assumes his wealth with such certainty that no one questions it, not even reality itself. This is the state you must enter. If you look at your surroundings and see lack, it is only because you have made lack your dwelling place in consciousness. You have accepted it as your identity. But just as you have unconsciously assumed poverty, you can consciously assume wealth. Close your eyes and strip away the illusions of limitation. Feel the weight of a full wallet in your pocket. See yourself signing generous checks without hesitation. Walk into the grand house you desire, not as an outsider, but as its rightful owner. Smell the richness of fine leather in your luxury car. Hear the soft hum of its engine as you glide down the road. Do not merely see these things, live in them within the sanctuary of your imagination. Let the assumption take hold so deeply that when you open your eyes, reality itself must conform. Some will argue, but I cannot deceive myself. I see my poverty. I know my struggles. Yet, are you not deceiving yourself already by believing in lack when the universe is boundless? Are you not holding on to an illusion when all abundance is already yours, waiting for you to claim it? No external force can grant you wealth until you become wealth within. The moment you abandon doubt, the moment you cease to look at circumstances for validation and instead stand firm in your assumption, the invisible hand of creation moves. Money flows in unexpected ways. Opportunities appear where none existed before, and all because you assumed the reality of your wealth before it was visible to the world. Many believe they must see wealth before they can believe it is theirs. They look to the physical world for confirmation before adjusting their inner state. But this is like waiting for a fire to provide warmth before adding wood. The order is reversed. It is not seeing that leads to believing, it is believing that leads to seeing. Your emotions are the bridge between your current reality and the one you desire. To attract wealth, you must feel with unwavering certainty that it is already in your possession. Not tomorrow, not one day now. The mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination. It only follows the dominant emotion you sustain. Now think of the moments when you were truly happy. Did you require proof before you felt joy? Or did the feeling come first, independent of circumstances? The same applies to wealth. If you constantly feel the anxiety of scarcity, you are feeding that reality. But if instead you assume the feeling of security, of freedom, of endless abundance, your world must shift to reflect it. Imagine right now holding a thick stack of money in your hands. Feel its weight, the texture of the bills between your fingers. Sense the quiet assurance of knowing that all your needs are met, that you are never in lack. Breathing deeply and experience the peace that wealth brings. Do not hope for it. Do not wish for it. Experience it as if it were already yours. Your mind is the architect of your destiny. Whatever state you habitually dwell in, you will manifest. This is why many remain trapped in financial struggle, not because they are incapable of wealth, but because they continuously feel broke, desperate, anxious. And so their world echoes that feeling back to them. Look at those who prosper. Do they walk in fear? Do they shrink before financial decisions? No, they carry themselves as masters of abundance, and the world bows before their certainty. The same power lies within you. The only question is, will you use it? It does not matter what is in your wallet today. It does not matter how dire your circumstances appear. If you can feel wealth before it arrives, if you can embody the state of abundance, then reality has no choice but to align. Money will come in ways you never expected. Opportunities will reveal themselves. The chains of financial hardship will break, not because you begged for freedom, but because you assumed it was already yours. Doubt is the silent thief of wealth. It disguises itself as logic, as realism, as careful planning, but in reality, it is the very thing keeping you bound to lack. You may say, I want to be rich, but if deep within you still question whether it is possible for you, you have already set a limit on what can be given to you. Understand this, the law does not respond to half beliefs. It does not recognize a mind that wavers between certainty and fear. It only manifests what you accept as absolute truth. If you assume abundance, but still entertain thoughts of struggle, those contradictory states cancel each other out. You will remain stuck, trapped in the middle, wondering why your efforts seem fruitless. Faith must be whole. It must be unwavering. It must be so deeply rooted in your being that even when your external world shows no evidence of wealth, you remain unshaken. This is where most people fail. They allow circumstance to dictate their beliefs instead of allowing their beliefs to dictate circumstances. Think of a man standing before a mirror. If he frowns, the reflection frowns back. If he smiles, the image changes instantly. But what if he demands that the reflection smile before he changes his own expression? He would stand there forever, waiting for something outside of him to move first. This is how most people approach wealth. They wait for their bank account to increase before they feel abundant. They wait for opportunities to appear before they believe they are successful. But the order must be reversed. Wealth will not appear until you first accept it as truth. To remove doubt, you must first become aware of the hidden beliefs that contradict your desires. Do you find yourself thinking money is hard to earn? Do you hear an inner voice whisper, only certain people become rich? These beliefs are not harmless thoughts. They are the very barriers preventing you from stepping into wealth. Now replace them. Flood your mind with certainty each morning before the weight of the world settles upon you. Remind yourself, I am wealthy. My financial freedom is inevitable. Money flows to me in ways I cannot yet see, but I know it is already mine. Let this belief take root and never allow doubt to pull you back. If you truly desire wealth, then doubt must be eliminated, not lessened, not managed, but completely removed. And when it is gone, the flow of abundance will rush toward you unobstructed and undeniable. Words are not just sounds, they are forces that shape reality. Every word you speak is a command issued to the unseen forces that govern creation. If you constantly speak of struggle, of hardship, of all that you lack, then you are reinforcing those very conditions. Most people unknowingly curse their own prosperity with their words. They say, I can't afford that, money is tight, I'll never get ahead. They believe they are merely stating facts, but in reality, they are declaring their reality, binding themselves to lack with every utterance. Scripture tells us death and life are in the power of the tongue. What you speak, you invite into your life. Your words are not mere descriptions of reality, they are the seeds from which reality grows. If you constantly talk about struggle, do not be surprised when struggle multiplies in your life. But what if you change the way you speak? What if instead of affirming lack, you spoke only of abundance? Even if your wallet is empty, instead of saying, I am broke, say, money is flowing to me now. Instead of saying, I can't afford that, say, that is within my reach. Do not lie to yourself. Simply speak in alignment with the reality you wish to create. The moment you shift your words, you shift your energy. And the moment you shift your energy, the world begins to respond. Think of a man standing in a field, holding a bag of seeds. If he scatters seeds of poverty, he cannot be surprised when he reaps a harvest of lack. If he plants seeds of abundance, his field will yield prosperity. Words are those seeds. Every time you speak, you are sowing into the soil of your future. What will your harvest be? There is another danger in talking about lack. It reinforces the belief in struggle, not just in your own mind, but in the minds of those around you. When you complain about money, when you discuss financial hardships, you are not only shaping your reality, but influencing others to do the same. And when you surround yourself with conversations of lack, it becomes increasingly difficult to break free. Instead, guard your words fiercely. Refuse to participate in discussions of limitation. If someone complains about money, do not join and redirect the conversation. Speak only of possibility of prosperity, of the opportunities that are unfolding before you. At first, this may feel unnatural. You may feel as though you are pretending, as though your words do not match your reality. But understand this: the purpose of your words is not to describe your reality, it is to create it. If you speak of abundance long enough, it will become your truth. If you refuse to acknowledge lack, it will lose its power over you. And when your words align perfectly with the wealth you desire, reality will have no choice but to follow. The energy of those around you shapes your destiny. You may think you are an independent thinker, that you make your own choices, but look closely. Do the people in your life reflect wealth, abundance, and success? Or do they constantly dwell in thoughts of limitation, fear, and struggle? Everything in this world moves according to vibration. Just as a radio must be tuned to the right frequency to receive a signal, your mind must be tuned to the vibration of wealth to attract money. And nothing influences your vibration more than the people you spend time with. If you surround yourself with those who believe wealth is unattainable, those who complain about their circumstances, those who scoff at success and blame the world for their misfortunes, then their energy will seep into your consciousness. Without realizing it, their beliefs will become your own. Have you ever noticed how a single negative conversation can drain you? How being around those who constantly speak of hardship leaves you feeling heavy, uncertain, and doubtful? This is because you are absorbing their frequency. No matter how much you believe in wealth, if you spend your time around those who reinforce lack, their energy will contradict your assumption and keep you bound to their reality. Look at the most successful people in the world. Do they spend time with those who complain? Do they engage in discussions about what they cannot do? No. They surround themselves with others who think boldly, who see opportunity where others see obstacles. They seek out those who inspire them, who uplift them, who challenge them to rise to a higher level. You must do the same. If you desire wealth, seek the company of those who embody it. This does not mean you must personally know millionaires. Wealth is not just found in people, but in ideas, in books, and no. Read the words of those who have succeeded. Listen to their stories, study their mindsets. Fill your consciousness with the thoughts of those who have achieved what you seek. Be ruthless in protecting your energy. If those around you constantly discuss failure, if they mock ambition, if they drag you into the illusion of limitation, then distance yourself. You do not owe your presence to those who keep you from your highest potential. If you want to attract wealth, you must create an environment that reflects it. Make your surroundings a sanctuary of success. Surround yourself with images of prosperity, with symbols of abundance, with reminders that wealth is your destiny. Let everything around you affirm that you are already rich. And when your energy shifts, when you rise to the vibration of success, you will find that those who once doubted you will begin to fade from your life. New opportunities, new connections, and new wealth will take their place. Your actions reveal your true beliefs. You may say you believe in wealth, you may visualize abundance. But if your actions contradict your assumption, then you are deceiving yourself. How do you behave when money is involved? You hesitate before making even small purchases. Do you calculate every expense with fear? Worry about the future? Do you avoid opportunities because they seem too costly? If so, then you are not living as one who is wealthy. You are still operating from a state of lack. A wealthy person does not fear spending money. He does not treat it as something that might disappear at any moment. He moves through life with confidence, knowing that money is a resource that flows endlessly, not something to be clutched in desperation. This does not mean reckless spending. Acting as if money is no issue does not mean wasting it carelessly. It means shifting from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. It means making decisions from a place of confidence, not fear. Imagine you were already rich. How would you act? Would you fear paying bills? Would you hesitate to invest in yourself? Would you constantly check your bank balance, anxiously watching every penny? No, you would move with certainty, knowing that whatever you need will always be provided. Start now. The next time you buy something, do so with the feeling that money is abundant. The next time an opportunity presents itself, do not reject it because of cost. Ask yourself, if I were wealthy, would I hesitate? If the answer is no, then proceed with the faith that abundance is yours. Think of money like water in a river. When it flows freely, it replenishes itself. But if you try to dam it up, to hold on to it too tightly, the flow is disrupted. Scarcity is not the absence of money, it is the fear of losing it, and that fear creates the very condition you seek to avoid. You may say, but I cannot afford to act this way. I have real financial limitations. This is the illusion you must break. Your current circumstances are not permanent, they are only the reflection of past thoughts. And if you continue to operate from a place of fear, you will continue to manifest lack. Wealth is not given to those who wait for proof. It is given to those who step forward boldly, who act in accordance with the truth that money is always available, always flowing, always increasing. Shift your actions now. Spend without fear. Invest in your future with confidence. Walk through life as if money were never a concern. And as you do, reality will align with your assumption, and the wealth you seek will come to you effortlessly. Most people believe that wealth is about accumulation, about holding on to as much money as possible, fearing that if they let it go, they might not get it back. But this belief contradicts the very nature of abundance. Money, like energy, must flow. It is not meant to be hoarded in fear, but circulated in faith. Think of a tree bearing fruit. If the tree refused to release its fruit, if it clung to them tightly, what would happen? The fruit would rot in its grasp. The tree would cease to grow, for it would be unable to make space for new life. But when it releases its fruit freely, it allows for the natural cycle of growth, ensuring that it continues to produce in abundance. The same is true for money. If you hoard it in fear, if you refuse to release it because you are afraid of lack, you create a stagnant energy that blocks the flow of more wealth into your life. But when you give freely, when you release money with the faith that it will return, you open the floodgates for even greater abundance. This does not mean reckless giving. It does not mean depriving yourself or acting irresponsibly. It means understanding that money is a tool meant to be used, shared, and invested in ways that align with your highest purpose. If you have ever given money with a pure heart, you know the feeling that follows. There is a sense of expansion, a deep knowing that you are operating from a place of true abundance. And that feeling is powerful, for it aligns you with the vibration of wealth. Many fear that giving money will leave them with less, but in truth, the act of giving sends a message to the universe: I have more than enough. And when you operate from a place of more than enough, reality must align to match that assumption. Consider the wealthy. They give freely not because they have excess, but because they understand this law. They know that generosity is not a loss, it is an investment in the cycle of abundance. And the more they give, the more they receive. If you struggle with giving, start small. The next time you feel resistance to sharing, recognize it as fear trying to keep you in a state of lack. Give anyway. Give with faith. Give with the knowing that what you release will return to you multiplied. As you practice this, you will see a shift in your financial reality. Unexpected money will appear. New opportunities will unfold. And you will realize that wealth was never about clinging, it was always about the willingness to let go. Knowing that in doing so, you create space for even greater abundance to flow into your life. One of the greatest mistakes people make when manifesting wealth is impatience. They plant the seed of assumption, but then dig it up daily to see if it has grown. They question, they worry, they doubt, forgetting that creation works in the unseen before it is revealed in the seen. Think of a farmer. He does not stand over his crops demanding that they grow overnight. He does not doubt the process of nature. Instead, he plants his seeds with faith, knowing that even when nothing appears to be happening, the process is unfolding beneath the surface. You must approach wealth in the same way. If you have assumed abundance, if you have shifted your mindset to one of prosperity, then your work is done. The universe has already begun aligning circumstances, people, and opportunities to bring you what you have claimed. But if you allow doubt to creep in, if you question when and how your wealth will appear, you disrupt the process. Trust is essential. There will be moments when you see no evidence of progress. Days, weeks, even months may pass without visible change. But understand this, the moment you assumed wealth, the process began. Just because you cannot see it does not mean it is not happening. Consider how all things in nature operate. A tree begins as an unseen seed beneath the soil. A baby is formed in the hidden darkness of the womb. The most powerful forces in the universe work in secrecy before revealing themselves. Wealth is no different. When you doubt, when you ask, where is it? Why hasn't it arrived? You send a signal of disbelief. You undo your assumption. You uproot the very thing you planted. But when you trust, when you walk in faith, knowing that wealth is already on its way, you remain aligned with the reality you desire. Think back to times in your life when something you wanted seemed impossible, yet it eventually happened. Did it not arrive in a way you did not expect? Did it not come at a time you could not have predicted? The same will be true for your financial breakthrough. The money you seek will come not necessarily in the way you imagine, but in the way that is most natural for your path. Your only task is to remain in the state of abundance. Stop looking for proof. Stop questioning the process. Act, think, and feel as though wealth is already yours, and let the unseen forces of creation do their work. And when the day comes when the wealth appears, when the opportunities unfold, when the money flows effortlessly into your life, you will understand that it was never about luck, never about chance. It was always about faith. It was always about alignment. And it was always about trusting what you not yet see. Most people do not realize that their reaction to wealth, whether in themselves or in others, determines how money flows in their lives. When they see someone driving a luxurious car, living in a grand house, or effortlessly making money, they often feel resentment, envy, or skepticism. They question, why do they have so much while I struggle? They assume that wealth is unfairly distributed, or that those who have it must have been lucky, dishonest, or vain. What they fail to see is that every negative reaction toward another person's success is an instruction sent to their own subconscious mind, a command that says, I reject wealth. I do not like prosperity, I resist abundance. The mind does not differentiate between wealth in yourself and wealth in others. If you react negatively to another's riches, you are pushing it away from your own life. This is why so many people remain trapped in cycles of financial struggle. They do not celebrate wealth, they resent it. They do not bless the rich, they criticize them. And in doing so, they ensure that they never rise above their current condition. If you want to attract money effortlessly, you must change this. You must begin to see wealth wherever it appears as a sign that abundance is possible for you too. Instead of feeling bitter when you see someone prospering, feel excitement. Celebrate their success. Let your heart be filled with joy at the proof that money flows freely in this world. Imagine this, you see a person driving an expensive car. Instead of feeling envy, you smile and say to yourself, this is a sign that financial freedom is real. This is proof that wealth is available to those who align with it. If they can have it, so can I. The moment you shift your perspective, something extraordinary happens. Instead of resisting wealth, you begin inviting it. Your subconscious mind no longer associates money with negative emotions. It begins to see prosperity as something good, something to be welcomed, something that belongs to you as much as to anyone else. Think of a river. Water does not flow toward resistance, it follows the path of least resistance. Money operates in the same way. If you resist it through jealousy, criticism, or feelings of unworthiness, it will avoid you. But if you welcome it, if you celebrate it in others, if you open yourself to it with gratitude and expectation, it will begin flowing toward you naturally. Consider the wealthy individuals you admire. Have you noticed that they do not complain about money? They do not resent others for having more than them. Instead, they appreciate wealth, they respect it, they expect it to grow. Their mindset is wired for abundance, and as a result, money gravitates toward them effortlessly. Now, look at those who struggle financially. Their conversations are filled with complaints about money. They speak of unfairness, of hardship, of scarcity. They view the rich with suspicion, believing that success is either luck or deception. And because their minds are filled with resistance, they unknowingly repel the very thing they desire. You must choose which path to follow. You must decide whether you will be the person who resents wealth or the person who celebrates it. And this choice will determine your financial reality. Start now. The next time you see someone experiencing financial success, whether in person or online, react with joy. Whisper a silent blessing, may they prosper even more. And as I celebrate their abundance, I open myself to receive my own. If you feel resistance to doing this, examine it closely. Where does it come from? Was it taught to you by those who struggled financially? Were you conditioned to believe that wealth is unfair or undeserved? If so, it is time to break free from those limiting beliefs. Wealth is not evil. Money is not the enemy. It is a tool, a resource, a means to fulfill your purpose. And the more you welcome it, the more it will flow into your life. You may wonder, how does simply celebrating wealth bring more money to me? The answer is simple. Your emotions dictate your reality. When you react negatively to wealth, you affirm scarcity in your subconscious, but when you respond with joy, you affirm abundance. Try this experiment for the next 7 days. Every time you see wealth, whether in the form of a successful business, a luxurious home, or even a stranger receiving financial blessings, take a deep breath and say, "That is beautiful." That is proof that money flows, and I am part of that flow. Watch how your energy shifts. Watch how opportunities begin to appear. Watch how, instead of feeling like an outsider looking in on the world of abundance, you begin to feel like an insider, someone to whom money naturally belongs. The shift is subtle but powerful. It reprograms your mind to see wealth as something desirable, something possible, something inevitable. And once that belief takes root, the physical world must conform to it. You will begin to notice unexpected financial breakthroughs. Money will appear in ways you never anticipated. Business ideas will flourish. Opportunities will come knocking. And all because you made a simple decision to celebrate wealth instead of resisting it. So from this moment forward, make a commitment. You will no longer view money with fear or resentment. You will no longer feel jealousy when you see others succeed. Instead, you will celebrate, you will bless, you will welcome the very thing you desire. And as you do, you will watch your financial reality transform before your eyes. The greatest mistake people make when applying the law of assumption to attract wealth is giving up too soon. They assume abundance for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, but when they don't see immediate results, they return to their old patterns of doubt, worry, and lack. They say, "I tried believing, but nothing happened." But that very statement proves they never truly assumed wealth in the first place. To persist means to remain unwavering in your assumption, no matter what the external world appears to show. It means to continue believing in the unseen reality of your wealth, even when your current circumstances try to convince you otherwise. Imagine planting a seed in the soil. You water it daily, knowing that beneath the surface roots are forming, even though you cannot see them. But what if after a week you dug up the seed, frustrated that it hasn't sprouted yet? You would be killing the very process that was bringing your desire to life. This is what most people do with their financial manifestations. They assume wealth, but when no immediate evidence appears, they let impatience take over. They begin to doubt. They return to the habits of scarcity, and in doing so, they uproot the progress that was already taking place in the unseen. Persistence is the secret ingredient that separates those who manifest great wealth from those who remain trapped in lack. The wealthy never question whether money is coming to them, they assume it. They live in the state of already having it, and they refuse to waver. It is not a question of if, but when. And because they persist in that mindset, reality has no choice but to align. You must adopt the same unwavering certainty. No matter what your current bank account says, no matter what your circumstances suggest, you must persist in the assumption that you are already financially free. If an unexpected bill appears, do not panic or respond as a wealthy person would. If money seems slow to arrive, do not let frustration seep and remain in the knowing that wealth is yours. This is the test. The external world may throw challenges at you, trying to shake your belief, but your persistence must be greater than any temporary setback. The moment you waver, the moment you allow fear or doubt to creep in, you delay your manifestation. Think of a sculptor shaping a masterpiece from stone. If he stops midway, believing his efforts are futile because he cannot yet see the final form, he will never complete his work. But if he persists, chiseling away with faith, the masterpiece will eventually reveal itself. Your wealth is no different. Every thought you hold, every feeling of certainty you maintain is another strike of the chisel, shaping your reality. And if you persist without hesitation, the wealth you seek will become visible in your world. The law does not fail. It is not selective. It does not work for some and not for others. The only difference between those who succeed and those who do not is persistence. Many people assume wealth for a short time and then wonder why nothing happens. They question, they analyze, they let impatience creep in. But the very act of doubting undoes the progress they have made. They are like a man who builds a bridge halfway across a river but then stops, claiming it doesn't work, when in reality he only needed to continue to reach the other side. So how do you persist? By living in the state of already having what you desire, by refusing to let circumstances dictate your beliefs, by reinforcing your assumption daily, moment by moment, until it becomes so deeply ingrained that it is no longer an assumption, it is your truth. Speak as a wealthy person would. Act as a wealthy person would. Feel as a wealthy person would. If doubts arise, push them aside and reaffirm your certainty. If challenges come, see them as illusions, mere remnants of your past beliefs dissolving before your eyes. Most people never see their manifestations materialize because they do not hold their assumptions long enough for reality to shift. They look for immediate proof, and when they do not see it, they abandon their efforts. But those who persist, those who hold on to their assumption with unshakable faith, always receive what they desire. Ask yourself, am I willing to persist? Am I willing to hold on to my assumption of wealth until it becomes undeniable? Because if you are, then wealth is not just possible for you, it is inevitable. Wealth is not something you chase, it is something you become. The money, success, and abundance you desire are already within your reach, but they cannot manifest until you align yourself fully with them. The world is not withholding wealth from you. It is not testing you, punishing you, or keeping you in lack. It is simply reflecting back to you what you assume to be true. If you assume scarcity, you will see evidence of it everywhere. If you assume that money is hard to earn, your life will reflect that struggle. If you assume that success is only for the lucky few, then you will remain among the many who watch from the sidelines. But the moment you shift your assumption, the moment you know with unwavering certainty that wealth is yours, the doors of abundance swing open. You must embody wealth before it arrives. You must feel it, live it, breathe it, and refuse to be shaken by temporary circumstances. Every great success story is built upon the foundation of persistence, unshakable belief, and the refusal to accept anything less than abundance. The law of assumption is absolute. It does not fail. It does not make exceptions. And it does not require permission from the world. It only requires you to claim what is already yours. So now the choice is in your hands. Will you continue to live by the limitations imposed by past beliefs? Will you let fear, doubt, and old conditioning keep you bound to scarcity? Or will you step forward boldly, assume the wealth that is rightfully yours, and walk into the life you were always meant to have? The answer is simple: persist until it manifests. Do not waver. Do not look for proof before you believe. Assume it now, live in it now, and soon the world will have no choice but to reflect it back to you. Your wealth is waiting. Claim it. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it, assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence. Not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. To act like a super rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you were truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing, or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. Observe how a super rich man moves through life. He does not rush, for he knows that time serves him. He does not plead, for he is the chooser, not the beggar. His words carry weight, for he speaks from conviction. He does not react in desperation, for he trusts that all things align in his favor. He is at ease in any room, among any crowd, because he belongs wherever he chooses to be. To act as if you are rich is not to pretend or deceive, but to live in the assumption that it is already done. The world does not bring riches to the man who waits and hopes. It conforms to the man who already believes he has. Look upon yourself now and decide, will you walk in lack, or will you claim the wealth that is already yours in consciousness? The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it, assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence. Not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. To act like a super rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that opportunities seek him out, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you are truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious, or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing, or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. Assume the feeling of wealth, not just in fleeting moments of wishful thinking, but as a permanent state of being. When you wake up in the morning, do not let your first thoughts be of struggle, lack, or uncertainty. Instead, step into the day with the assurance that you are already a man of great means. Walk to the mirror and see yourself as such. Feel the ease in your body, the certainty in your mind, and the security in your spirit. The wealthy man does not wait for external proof before believing in his wealth. He carries the belief first, and the world reflects it back to him. Observe how the truly rich think and act. They do not act in desperation, nor do they approach life with a mindset of survival. Their every move is driven by a deep-seated belief that they already have all they need. If they desire something, they do not wish for it with longing, but with expectation. They expect to receive, they expect doors to open, they expect money to flow, because their internal state is one of possession. The moment you assume the feeling of wealth, your actions will align with that assumption, and the world around you will conform to your new reality. The mistake most people make is waiting for evidence before they believe. They wait for a bank balance to confirm their wealth, for a business deal to validate their success, for an opportunity to prove that they are worthy. But the rich do not wait for proof. They decide, they assume, they become, and the world, being nothing more than a mirror to their inner state, arranges itself accordingly. If you truly wish to act like a super rich man, you must begin by seeing yourself as one. Every great fortune, every empire, every success story began in the mind of someone who had the audacity to assume. They did not wish from a distance. They lived in the feeling of already having. The moment you assume it, your thoughts, speech, and behavior will shift. You will stop making decisions from a place of scarcity. You will stop hesitating, questioning, and doubting. You will move as if you already have all that you desire, and in doing so, you will invite that reality to unfold. Watch how the mind responds when you fully accept an identity. The man who assumes himself to be poor, even when given opportunities, will act in ways that reinforce his belief. He will hesitate, second-guess, and sabotage his own progress because deep down, he does not see himself as worthy of wealth. But the man who assumes himself to be rich moves differently. He does not seek validation. He does not worry about how. He simply knows. And because he knows, life bends to his certainty. If you were to close your eyes right now and imagine yourself as a man of limitless wealth, what would that feel like? Not what it looks like, but how it feels. The security, the ease, the unshaken confidence. Now open your eyes and carry that feeling into your waking life. Speak from it, walk from it, make decisions from it. Wealth is not something you acquire. It is something you tune into. And the only way to tune into it is to assume the feeling of already being there. Stop waiting for proof. Stop waiting for money to show up before you believe you are wealthy. Stop waiting for circumstances to change before you act accordingly. You must lead with belief, and the evidence will follow. The world is your servant, and it will bring you whatever you command. But it cannot give you what you refuse to claim for yourself. You must assume it now, not tomorrow, not when conditions seem right, but now. No one can assume it for you. No one can force you to step into the identity of wealth. You must choose it, live in it, breathe it, and once you do, life will begin to move in ways that confirm what you have already accepted in your heart. The money, the opportunities, the resources, these are simply echoes of the belief you hold. Change the belief, and the echoes will change with it. To assume wealth is to carry a presence that is undeniable. It is to enter a room with the quiet confidence of a man who belongs. It is to move through life with an unshaken assurance that everything you need is already yours. It is not to wish, but to expect. Not to hope, but to know. When you master this, you will find that the world around you bends to your conviction. Because the outer world is nothing more than a projection of the inner. The secret of the truly rich is not in what they own, but in what they assume. They assume they are worthy. They assume they are powerful. They assume they have enough. And because they assume it, life delivers it. So assume now. Do not wait for proof is simply the reflection of a past assumption. Choose the new assumption and let the world rearrange itself to match. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it, assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence. Not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. To act like a super-rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that opportunities seek him out, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you were truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing, or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. When a rich man enters a room, there is no need for him to announce his presence. His energy does it for him. He walks with an effortless command, not because he seeks to dominate, but because he knows he belongs. His movements are deliberate, unhurried, free from nervousness or hesitation. His shoulders are squared, his head held high, his steps purposeful. There is a certainty in his presence, a quiet yet undeniable force that tells the world, I am here, and I am certain of who I am. Notice how a poor man moves. He enters a space with uncertainty, his body language revealing his self-doubt before he even speaks. His posture is tense, his movements hesitant, his voice apologetic. He walks as though he is asking for permission to exist, for approval to take up space. His energy is scattered, his presence forgettable. Not because he is less worthy, but because he does not believe he belongs. The world simply reflects his assumption back to him. Observe how a truly wealthy man carries himself. He does not rush, for he knows that time serves him. He does not fidget or glance around nervously, for he is at ease wherever he stands. When he speaks, his words are measured, deliberate. He does not speak too quickly, nor does he mumble or shrink his voice. He does not over-explain, nor does he seek to justify his choices. He speaks as one who is accustomed to being heard, as one who knows that what he says holds value. If you wish to act like a super-rich man, start with your presence. Before you speak, before you act, before you even make a decision, check your posture. Are you carrying yourself like someone who belongs or like someone seeking approval? Do you shrink when you enter a room, or do you walk with quiet confidence? Do you hesitate before speaking, or do you speak with assurance? Do you fidget in nervousness, or do you stand in stillness, knowing you are already enough? You do not need a single dollar in your pocket to command presence. Presence is not something you buy, it is something you embody. The man who knows he is rich, even before the world confirms it, moves with a certainty that attracts wealth. The man who doubts himself, even if given a fortune, moves in a way that repels it. Your energy, your posture, your presence, these are the markers of true wealth. You have seen men who, despite having no visible wealth, are treated with reverence, respect, and admiration. And you have seen men who, despite having all the money in the world, are ignored, dismissed, or taken advantage of. The difference is not in their bank accounts, it is in their presence. One carries himself as if he is already powerful. The other moves as if he is trying to prove his worth, and the world responds accordingly. Try this. Before you enter any room, pause for a moment. Straighten your back, take a deep breath, and step forward with the assumption that you belong. Speak with ease, as if you are accustomed to being listened to. Make decisions without seeking external reassurance. Move as if success is inevitable, as if wealth is already yours, as if life bends in your favor. This is not about arrogance. It is not about forcing yourself into spaces where you are not wanted. It is about carrying yourself in such a way that the world sees you as one who belongs, because you have already decided that you do. A truly wealthy man does not demand recognition, yet he is always recognized. He does not beg for respect, yet he is always respected. He does not plead for opportunities, yet they always find him. Everything in life is energy, and the energy you project is the energy the world reflects back to you. If you wish to be treated like a man of wealth, you must first embody the energy of one. If you wish to attract abundance, you must first carry yourself as if you already have it. If you wish to move through life with ease, certainty and power, you must first assume that it is already yours. The moment you shift your presence, the world will take notice. People will listen differently. Opportunities will arise where none seem to exist. Doors will open without effort, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. Because you have decided once and for all to carry yourself as a man who already possesses everything he desires. And the world, being only a reflection of your inner state, will have no choice but to confirm it. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it, assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence. Not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. Act like a super rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that opportunities seek him out, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you were truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing, or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. When you observe those who struggle financially, you will notice that their entire mindset revolves around lack. They wake up thinking about what they do not have. They go through the day calculating their limitations. Their words, thoughts, and actions all point to scarcity. They hesitate to spend, not out of wisdom, but out of fear. They see money as something they must cling to, afraid it will slip away. But in that very fear, they push it further from themselves. Money, like anything else, responds to the energy you give it. If you treat it as something scarce, something difficult to hold on to, something that requires endless struggle to obtain, then that is exactly how it will behave in your life. The wealthy operate from an entirely different mindset. They do not see money as something that can run out, but as something that flows like a river, always moving, always replenishing, always available to those who align with it. This is why they spend without fear, why they invest without hesitation, why they give without worrying about return. They know with absolute certainty that what they send out will come back to them multiplied. They live in a cycle of receiving because they never close their hands in fear. If you wish to act like a super rich man, you must first break free from the scarcity mindset that keeps you trapped. Every time you hesitate to invest in yourself, every time you fear spending money, every time you shrink your dreams because of financial worries, you reinforce the very reality you are trying to escape. The first step to shifting into abundance is to stop seeing money as something that is slipping away and start seeing it as something that naturally flows to you. Imagine for a moment that wealth is like air. Do you ever worry about not having enough air to breathe? Do you ever feel the need to hoard it, to store it away for later, to count how much air is available to you? No, because you trust that there is always more. This is the way the wealthy see money. It is an ever-present resource, never something to fear, never something to chase. It simply is, always there, always flowing. You might think, but I do not have wealth yet. How can I possibly think like a rich man when my reality shows me otherwise? That is where most people get it wrong. They believe they must first see evidence before they shift their thinking. But reality does not work that way. Your external world is nothing more than a reflection of your internal state. If you continue to think and act from a place of lack, then no amount of money will ever be enough. But if you shift your mindset first, if you begin to think and act as though wealth is already yours, the outer world will have no choice but to reflect that belief back to you. The truly wealthy do not fear loss, because they know that their wealth does not come from outside circumstances, it comes from within. A man who is rich in consciousness could lose everything today and regain it all tomorrow, because his wealth is not in his possessions, but in his state of mind. But a man who is poor in consciousness, even if given a fortune, will eventually lose it because his mind is still rooted in scarcity. Observe how you treat money in your daily life. Do you hold on to it fearfully, believing that if you spend, it may never return? Do you make financial decisions from a place of worry rather than from a place of trust? Do you constantly tell yourself that things are too expensive, that money is hard to come by, that life is a struggle? If so, you are reinforcing lack in your reality, and it will continue to manifest in every area of your life. Instead, begin acting as if wealth is already your natural state. When you make a purchase, do not do so with hesitation or guilt. Do so with confidence, knowing that more is always coming. When you invest in yourself, do not see it as a risk. See it as a necessary part of your growth. When you think about your financial future, do not focus on problems. Focus on possibilities. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you allow. And the only way to allow it is to let go of the fear of not having enough. You must retrain your mind to see abundance where others see lack. When someone complains about how expensive something is, the rich man sees an opportunity. When others see obstacles, the rich man sees pathways. He does not dwell on limitations because his mind is too focused on expansion. He does not dwell on loss because he knows that wealth, once aligned with, cannot be lost. It only shifts form. The universe responds to certainty. If you believe without question that money flows to you, it will. If you trust without doubt that opportunities arise for you, they will. But if you continue to act as though money is hard to get, if you continue to fear that there is never enough, then no matter how much wealth you acquire, it will always seem to slip through your fingers. Wealth is not held in the hands, it is held in the mind. If you truly want to act like a super rich man, you must embody this mindset of abundance before you see external proof. You must wake up each day with the unwavering belief that everything you need is already on its way to you. You must walk through life with the quiet confidence that wealth is your birthright, that money is not something you chase, and when you do, the world will begin to reflect your new reality, because it has no choice. It is only responding to what you have chosen to believe. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it, assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence. Not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. To act like a super-rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that opportunities seek him out, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you were truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing, or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. A rich man moves through life knowing that time and opportunities serve him. He is never in a rush, never operating in a state of desperation. He does not scramble or make impulsive decisions out of fear of missing out. Instead, he carries the unshaken belief that everything he needs will come at the right time. He does not chase, he attracts. He does not beg for doors to open, he expects them to. He does not run after money, he assumes it is always moving toward him. This is the energy of a man who knows that life is not something to struggle against, but something that flows in harmony with his belief. A poor man, on the other hand, is always rushing, always acting out of fear that time is running out. He worries that if he does not act now, he will lose his chance. He fears missing opportunities, so he jumps at everything, even when it does not align with his true purpose. He feels the need to prove himself, to hustle endlessly, to keep up with a world that seems to be slipping away from him. But this very desperation pushes opportunities further from his reach. The universe does not reward frantic energy. It responds to calm, unwavering belief. Have you ever noticed how those who operate from a place of desperation always seem to struggle? The man who is always chasing after business deals rarely secures them. The one who is always worried about money never seems to have enough. The one who is always in a hurry often finds himself running in circles. Why? Because they are not aligned with the energy of wealth. They are aligned with the energy of lack. And so lack continues to manifest in their lives. The rich man understands that time is not his enemy, it is his ally. He knows that he does not have to rush, because what is meant for him cannot be taken from him. He does not make decisions out of fear, but out of trust. He does not scramble to prove himself, because he already knows his worth. This is why wealthy people often seem so calm, so composed, so assured in their every move. They are not bound by the illusion of urgency. They operate from the deep internal knowing that all things are working in their favor. When you watch a truly wealthy man making a decision, you will notice something powerful. He takes his time. He does not act out of pressure. He does not feel the need to jump at every opportunity presented to him. He evaluates, he reflects, he waits until the choice feels right. And when he does act, he does so with certainty. There is no hesitation, no second guessing. He moves with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that time and opportunities are on his side. Now consider the man who operates from a scarcity mindset. He is always anxious, always fearful that this might be his last chance, always rushing to grab whatever comes his way. He does not trust that more opportunities will come, so he clings desperately to whatever is in front of him, even if it is not the right choice. This is why so many struggle, not because opportunities are scarce, but because they do not trust that more are coming. If you want to act like a super rich man, you must shift into the belief that life is not something you need to chase, it is something that flows toward you. When an opportunity comes, do not react in desperation. Evaluate it. Ask yourself, is this truly aligned with the vision I hold for my life? If the answer is no, then walk away without fear. If the answer is yes, then step forward with confidence, knowing that it is already yours. When you truly trust that time and opportunities serve you, everything in your life will change. You will no longer feel the need to rush. You will no longer make choices from a place of fear. You will no longer be overwhelmed by the illusion that you must act now or lose everything. Instead, you will move through life with a quiet assurance, knowing that what is meant for you is already on its way. Wealthy people do not beg for things, they expect them. They do not panic when things take time, they trust the process. They do not chase opportunities, they attract them. And because they carry this belief, the world responds to them accordingly. The universe bends to the mind that is sure of itself. Look at your own life. Where are you operating out of fear? Where are you making rush decisions because you do not trust that more opportunities will come? Where are you acting as though time is against you rather than working for you? Once you identify these areas, shift your mindset, move into the belief that time is your ally, that opportunities are infinite, that wealth is not something you have to struggle for, it is something you align with. The man who understands this truth never worries about missing out because he knows that what is his will always find him. He does not chase, he does not rush, he does not act in desperation. He walks with certainty, he moves with purpose, and the world bends to his confidence. And when you begin to move in this way, you will see the same transformation in your own life, because life does not give you what you beg for, it gives you what you expect. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it, assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence, not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. To act like a super rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you were truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. Your reality is nothing but a reflection of your inner state. If you wish to experience wealth, you must first carry the mindset of a wealthy man. If you wish to be treated with respect, you must first see yourself as worthy of respect. If you desire financial ease, you must believe that ease is your natural state. The poor man waits for circumstances to change before adjusting his mindset. But the rich man understands that his mindset determines his circumstances. Think about a person who always struggles financially. He blames the world, his job, the economy, his upbringing, everything except his own consciousness. He believes that money is difficult to earn, that wealth is reserved for the lucky, that financial freedom is beyond his reach. And so, what does the world give him? Struggle, limited opportunities, a life that reflects his inner belief in scarcity. Now consider a man who, despite having no visible wealth, carries himself as if abundance is his birthright. He does not fear expenses. He does not shrink in worry. He does not hesitate before making a purchase. He moves through life with certainty, and soon his external world aligns with this internal assumption. Wealth is drawn to him, opportunities appear effortlessly, and doors open without force. Not because he is lucky, but because he has aligned his inner state with the reality he desires. Most people get this backwards. They wait for proof before they believe. They say, if I had more money, I would feel abundant. If I had more success, I would be confident. If I had more opportunities, I would take action. But the rich man does not wait. He assumes first, and the world rearranges itself to match his assumption. If you want to act like a super rich man, you must understand that your external world is only a delayed reflection of your internal state. Your beliefs today shape your reality tomorrow. If you want to see wealth in your life, you must first cultivate the consciousness of wealth. You must carry yourself as one who is already abundant, already successful, already worthy. You must step into each moment as though everything you desire is already yours. Watch how the rich move. They do not operate from fear. They do not shrink from opportunity. They do not speak of limitations. They do not dwell on what they lack. They move as if all things are available to them because they have accepted that reality internally. And because they accept it, the world confirms it. Now, look at your own life. Where are you holding on to beliefs that contradict the wealth you desire? Do you tell yourself that money is hard to earn, that success is out of reach, that opportunities are rare? Every time you affirm these thoughts, you strengthen the reality of lack. You reinforce the very conditions you wish to escape. You must train your mind to accept wealth before it arrives. When you make a purchase, do not do so with hesitation. Do so with confidence. When you speak about money, do not complain about what you lack. Speak as if abundance is already yours. When you envision your future, do not see obstacles, see limitless opportunities. The world is listening to the story you tell yourself. Change the story, and the reality must change as well. You do not need to prove your worth to the world. The world is simply mirroring what you already believe about yourself. The man who sees himself as rich will act accordingly. He will walk with assurance. He will invest in himself without fear. He will make decisions from a place of trust, not anxiety. And because he believes it first, the world must reflect it back to him. Wealth is not something you wait for, it is something you claim. If you wait for proof, you will never receive it. If you wait for the world to confirm your worth, you will never feel worthy. But if you decide right now that wealth is already yours, everything around you will begin to shift. The money, the opportunities, the success, it all starts within. You have seen this truth in action. The person who expects rejection always finds it. The person who fears failure always encounters it. The person who believes in endless struggle always experiences it. But the person who expects success, who assumes abundance, who carries himself as if wealth is his natural state, he becomes the man the world cannot ignore. You cannot afford to wait for reality to convince you. Reality follows consciousness, not the other way around. If you wish to act like a super rich man, you must first become one in mind. You must assume the wealth before it appears. You must act as if success is inevitable. You must walk with the confidence of one who already possesses everything he desires. And when you do, the world will have no choice but to mirror that truth back to you. Because reality does not bring you what you wish for. It brings you what you assume to be true. Change the assumption, and the entire world must change with it. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what you wish to be, but what you believe yourself to be. If you desire wealth, do not merely long for it. Assume the feeling of already possessing it. The man who is truly wealthy is not the one who constantly reminds himself of his riches, but the one who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty of abundance. He does not chase money, nor does he worry about its absence. Instead, he moves through life with the quiet assurance that all he needs is already his. Consider for a moment the difference between those who have and those who desire. The wealthy do not question their ability to afford, nor do they hesitate in decision-making. Their world conforms to their inner certainty. When they enter a room, they do so with an unshakable presence. Not arrogance, but a knowingness that commands respect. Their posture, their speech, their very breath carries the essence of prosperity. They do not need to seek validation because they have already validated themselves in their own mind. To act like a super rich man is not to flaunt wealth, but to embody the consciousness of wealth. It is not to accumulate possessions, but to dwell in the state of one who lacks nothing. The poor man counts every penny, worries over expenses, and fears loss. The rich man assumes that money flows to him effortlessly, that opportunities seek him out, that abundance is his birthright. He does not fear giving because he knows that what he releases returns to him multiplied. Everything begins in imagination. If you were truly rich, how would you dress? How would you walk? How would you interact with others? Would you be tense and anxious or calm and assured? Would you apologize for existing, or would you take up space with quiet confidence? The mind shapes reality, and reality bends to the mind that dares to assume. You do not need a single dollar to carry the mindset of wealth, for it is the consciousness that creates the condition, not the other way around. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to receive opportunities effortlessly, while others struggle endlessly? It is not because the universe favors some over others. It is because those who receive do so with the expectation that they will. They do not question whether success is available to them. They assume it is. They do not hesitate before taking a step. They move with certainty. They do not shrink when entering new spaces. They step forward as if they belong.